Now we're going to work on getting the weight thrown above the character's head. Let's bring back our control curves, and before we get into the main core of the lesson, what we're going to do is select the chest control, and let's go to frame 261. Notice how the chest is kind of tilted in a weird position. We don't want it tilted like this because it's keeping the hands from being on the bar as they should, for one, and we'll also need to adjust the barbell afterwards, but also the chest should be a little bit straighter than it is now. So let's fix that. And let's go to our perspective and graph view, and what we'll need to do is add a few keys on our rotation channels, so we can have some keys in here. So let's go, well, on frame 261, all we need to do is go ahead and zero out our rotate Y and rotate Z, and go back to the chest and just move it slightly to the left to straighten it out a little bit more, with still a little bit of an angle. Okay, so once that's done, now we can go to our barbell. We'll select it, and notice if we scrub past, notice how one arm is locked while the other one is bent while the barbell's on its way up. Well, we'll need to fix that, and what we can do to fix it is go to about frame 251 where the one arm's locked, one arm's bent. We'll translate the barbell in the X to straighten out the arms so that they're a little bit more even. Okay, and when we've done that, we'll take this key on the Translate X, and let's middle mouse button click on frame 261 now, and key the Translate X there so we can store that key on that frame. Then we can go ahead and delete the key now on frame 251. So if we scrub through, notice that fixes that issue we were getting, and now the arms lock pretty much at the same time. Great. So with those things done, we can now again get into the core of the lesson, getting that barbell thrown above the character's head. So if we hit play, well, what do we think is wrong here? Well, of course the timing is way too slow, so we'll need to adjust that, and we'll actually use our middle mouse button technique to apply our moving holds to fix this section. So let's go to about frame 221 so we can have a little bit of movement in our moving hold, and we'll add a little bit more later, but let's go ahead and select all of our controls this time, and from 221 let's middle mouse button click on about frame 240, and we'll have it in there. So we'll press Shift W and Shift E on frame 240. So here's what we get when we hit play. Character holds for a little bit while still moving and then throws the weight up, and that's happening a little bit faster like we wanted to, but it still needs to be adjusted. And what's actually going to happen when the character throws his weight up, he's actually going to jump with the weight, and on his way down, since the barbell is going to still be going up, he's going to use that momentum to have the barbell get thrown up above his head, keeping his arms locked. Okay, so that's what we're going to work on. So again, the character's going to jump up, and on his way down, the barbell's still going to be up, and therefore have his arms locked, and then he's going to keep it in that position. So to work on that, what we'll do is on frame 250, let's just select our center of gravity control, and we'll translate the character up right where the barbell is. Then we can move it back as well so it's still on his chest like we want it to be. And then we can even check out our keys to see how they look. There's our Translate Y, and there's our Translate Z. So they're looking pretty fine. So we can go back to our perspective and graph view. And now notice what we get just from doing this simple fix. Notice we get the results that we want. The character's jumping up, then on his way down, the barbell's still going up to lock the arms. Great. Well, we still have some work to do. Not done yet. What we want to do, let's go ahead and hit play from here. And notice how the character is rising immediately after. When in actuality, we want him to hold just for a little bit longer so he can prepare himself to start rising. So we'll need to add another moving hold. Let's go ahead and work on that. We'll again select all of our control curves, and with them selected, let's go to frame 261 and middle mouse button click on frame 272 and have our moving hold there. So we'll just press Shift W and Shift E. So here's the movement we get now when we hit play. Bam, the character stays just for a little bit longer, and he is rising a little bit fast, but we will adjust that pose a little bit later. The timing, we just want to focus on this section right now though. And we'll get to that a little bit later on in our next section. So now we've got the character throwing the weight up, and we've got him holding. Now let's adjust this moving hold so that it's not stationary. So we'll select the center of gravity and the barbell control. And since the character is moving downward, we'll just have both of them move slightly upward. Not much, just slight. We just want a little bit of motion in there. We'll hit play. Great, that's looking pretty good. Okay. Now, let's work on this leap up. If we notice how when we scrub, the barbell is going through the character's chest and then moving upward when we scrub past. Well, we definitely need to fix that. And to fix it, let's just select the barbell control. And what we'll do is, let's go to about frame 249 where the barbell is kind of in the chest there, and we'll translate it up some so that it's no longer in the chest. But now if we scrub through, notice what happens. The bar slightly comes up above the chest, then lands on the chest on the pose that we've had it on, and then rises up when we want it resting on the chest until the character does push it up. So to fix that, let's go to our perspective and graph view, and from there we'll go to our translate Y, and we'll just need to adjust our tangency on the key on frame 249. But let's go a few frames before so we can see where the barbell is rising above the chest, so we can see the tweaks that we're making. So we'll go to frame 247, select this right half of the tangent handle, and just move it upward until the barbell is now on the chest. Now when we scrub, watch. It stays on the chest until the character pushes it up. Great. So we'll hit play to see how our movement's looking. Alright, it's looking pretty good. But I think we could give a little bit more movement on our moving hold here on frame 240, so let's work on that. Now what we'll do is select the center of gravity control and the barbell control, and since the character was moving up here, we'll have him move down slightly and then he jumps up. To add a little bit to the anticipation of the jump as well, so we'll just go ahead and translate him down some, not much. Okay, and when we hit play, here's what we get. He moves down and then bam, jumps up to throw that weight up. Great, we're getting some nice results now. But we're still not completed with this section. What we need to do now is actually work on the character's head. We need to get that animated so the bar is not going through his head. Okay? And in order to fix that, let's go to about frame 256. And on 256 we'll move the character's head back, because that's what actually is going to happen. The character would move his head back some. Oh, let me go ahead and undo that. I accidentally moved in the Z there. Just want to move in the X. There we go. Yeah, but that's what would happen. The character would move his head back some and then move it forward once the weight is above his head. And now we need to fix this major intersecting problem that we're getting. So what we'll do is just delay this key on frame 261. Let's delay it some, and it'll also give us some nice follow through afterwards. If we hit play, notice. Okay, so the head just comes back a little bit slower for the follow through, and let's move it a little bit more in the X here and translate it forward just a little bit too, just so we could get some more movement there. Great, and notice we still get some subtlety afterwards when we move back to frame 272. Alright, great. Now for the head, what we want to work on is having him anticipate that move, because he does know that he's about to throw that weight up, so there's gonna be a little bit of anticipation there. So let's add the anticipation on about frame 245, and on 245 we'll rotate the head forward a little and translate it forward some too, this tiny bit. Great, so here's what we get. We've got a little subtlety going on for the anticipation. Then the character moves his head back, then bam, the weight gets thrown up and his head comes forward. And I know there's a little bit of intersecting going on in the head, but that's alright for a character, for this character. In this case, since he is a little bit stylized, his head is pretty big. Okay, but if you're working with a a model, for example, set to proportion, you won't ever have to worry about an issue like that. Okay, but we're just going over the fundamentals of the weight lift, so that's going to be fine. So we'll hit play and check out our movement, and it's looking pretty good. But we're not done yet, because as much as the head is moving, the upper body has to move too. So to place that movement on the upper body, we could just use the chest control. Okay, because if we move in our translate mode, like for example the translate Z, notice how the rest of the upper body moves. So we'll be able to just tweak out the upper body just by tweaking out the chest control. So what we'll do is go to where we added the pose for the head moving back on frame 256, and let's rotate the chest back some there. And we'll also translate it back slightly in the Z. Okay, so that we've got a little bit of movement there. And as the chest is moving forward, let's take this key on frame 261 and move it up also to 264. So notice we've got the upper body moving nice and subtle, as what should happen. We don't want too much movement because of the tension that's occurring. Okay, and we could add a little bit of movement on frame 272. Since the head is slightly moving back, we could just have the chest do the same. Move back just a little bit. And we'll translate it back some too. Okay, so there it is. Awesome. Now is a great time to do a play blast to check out our results for this lesson, to see if there's anything we can tweak for right now. So we'll find a nice view to play blast from and start a render off. Here it is. Okay, great. So now we've got the character throwing the weight above his head. The movement's looking nice. And with all of these tweaks done, we not only have completed this lesson, but we've also completed the 6th section. And we can now start working on the next, where the character is standing upright with that weight above his head. So we only got a few more to do before we've got the upper body completed.